Welcome to A Slice with Dice, a podcast exploring the ideas, pressures, and possibilities shaping how we learn, lead, and grow. I'm Corey Alderdice. For over 20 years, my work has lived at the intersection of gifted education, leadership development, and school culture, supporting students as they find their strengths, educators as they stretch their thinking, and schools as they build paths that expand opportunity. Ready to dive in? Here's this week's Slice. When I first started talking about leadership in terms of capital, I didn't expect it to resonate quite the way it did. The idea of leadership as a declining balance, an invisible bank account of trust and goodwill that leaders draw from over time, gave people language for something they'd felt for years. Every tough decision, every unpopular call, every misstep draws from that account. And over time, no matter how strong you start, the withdrawals add up. Then came the second layer, the second balance sheet. That episode explored what happens beyond the office, the unseen ledger of personal capital leaders have to protect. Because if the professional account is your checking account, constantly moving, constantly tested, the personal one is the reserve fund that sustains you. It's where you hold your energy, your relationships, your sense of identity. Without it, you burn through yourself to keep the institution running. So if the first conversation was about spending, and the second was about saving, then this final one is about earning. About what happens after all the transactions have been made. I call it the leadership dividend. Now, a dividend in simple terms is a return, a payout that comes not from a single transaction, but from consistent, intentional investment over time. You don't get a dividend on day one. You earn it slowly, quietly, as your investments begin to compound. The same is true in leadership. The dividend isn't applause or recognition. It's what endures after you've stepped back. It's the ongoing return from the culture you've built, the people you've developed, and the systems you've strengthened. It's the yield of trust, clarity, and example that keeps paying out long after you've left the room. We tend to measure leadership in short-term wins. New programs launched, budgets balanced, rankings improved. But the truth is, those are quarterly reports at best. The dividend, it shows up years later when you see someone you mentored leading well in their own right, or when a team handles a crisis with grace because of habits you helped build. That's the moment you realize the investment is still earning interest. Think about it this way. Every decision you make as a leader either consumes capital, preserves it, or plants it. The first two are visible. They happen in the day-to-day work, but the third one, or planting, is about patience. You never see the full return, but someone else will. And that's what separates a temporary leader from a lasting one. Temporary leaders spend for results. Lasting leaders invest for dividends. So what does that investment look like in practice? It's less dramatic than you might think. It looks like taking the time to explain the why behind a tough call, so people learn your reasoning, not just your rule. It looks like trusting a rising colleague with a project that stretches them. It looks like celebrating the process, not just the product. It's investing in people, not outcomes, because people, not policies, are the ones who eventually generate the return. When those investments take hold, the dividends start to appear in subtle ways. You hear language echoing back that you once used to describe your values. You see collaboration happening without your direction. You notice stability in the face of transition. You realize the organization doesn't need you to move forward. And instead of feeling threatened, you feel grateful. That is the dividend paying out. And yet, earning that dividend requires a shift in mindset. It means letting go of ownership and embracing stewardship. You're not building monuments to your leadership. You're creating infrastructure that others can build upon. The best dividend is not your name carved in the cornerstone, it's the organization's ability to thrive without you. And that's not an easy truth for many leaders. We like to see immediate results, to feel essential. But maturity in leadership means understanding that your most important work might bloom after you've left. That's your dividend, and it may be paid out in someone else's success. And if you've been leading for a while, you may have already seen the evidence of this. Maybe a colleague that you once mentored now carries the torch with confidence. Maybe a student or employee you challenged years ago still references your influence. Those are dividends, quiet, steady, compounding returns from the choices you made long ago. But just like any investment, dividends depend on discipline. They require consistency, reinvestment, and patience. You can't collect them if you've neglected your reserves or mismanaged your balance. That's why these three ideas, the invisible account, the second balance sheet, and the dividend, are all connected. Each relies on the other. When you spend your leadership capital wisely, you maintain credibility. When you protect your personal reserve, you sustain capacity. And when you invest both intentionally, you create dividends that multiply beyond your tenure. At some point, every leader closes their books, voluntarily or not. The question is, what remains on the ledger? If the balance is zero, but the dividends keep flowing, then you've done your work well. That's the difference between influence that fades and impact that lasts. Leadership, after all, isn't about how much you accumulate. It's about what continues after you've stopped counting. So as you think about your own leadership journey, consider this. What have you built that will still yield returns when you're no longer the one signing the checks? Whose confidence, character, or curiosity continues to grow because of the seeds you planted? That's your dividend statement. And the best part? Well, the best part is that it pays in perpetuity. Not in dollars, but in people. In the end, I think the leadership dividend completes the cycle. We start by learning to spend wisely. We endure by saving intentionally. And we lead best when our investments keep paying forward. In growth, in gratitude, and in others carrying the work further than we ever could. Because true leadership isn't about how long your balance lasts. It's about how generously your dividends continue to grow. A Slice with Dice is a production of Aldercube. Thanks for making time to reflect with me. If you're finding value in these episodes, I hope you'll subscribe and help spread the word. Until next week, lead boldly, listen closely, and keep pushing forward. I'll see you then.